get that clicked up, checking the audios, reset the musics. All right. Let's see here. Let me check my YouTubes. It should be good now. Dope. All right, guys. Let's, I guess we'll jump into this. So, welcome back to the live stream. It's live stream 11. God damn, dude, we're in the double digits, bro. So, today, what we're going to be doing is just kind of pushing the variations and pushing the ideas and stuff just a little bit further, right? Like, I think last week, right, we did the rough models in terms of, I guess, you know, what the initial thoughts were, and then the kind of like the initial directions that we want to pursue, right? Because we had that, we had a pretty basic like kind of camera based off that F2 or that Nikon F2. And this week, I'm going to show you a couple that I did off, you know, throughout the week. I literally like, just rendered it like maybe like 10 seconds ago, right? It just finished, and I just closed it out so I can open it later. But the idea is, you know, whenever we're doing ideation versus variation, right? Oftentimes that those, I guess, those ideas are confused, right? Because whenever I see, like, for example, in class or at work or something, you know, somebody's, oh, here's my ideation, right? Well, it's all the same idea. It's just different variations of it, right? It's like, oh, hey, here's this thing, and there's like different cut lines or different patterns, but it's the same format. And this is really what I want to kind of make sure that everyone understands. And, you know, the reason I want to talk about it at the beginning is because whenever we're looking at this, we want to know that every direction that we pick is a actual different direction. You know what I mean? So what we have here is 4 different directions that we can go. Nothing here is like solid in terms of like the final, you know, I guess, direct, like the final like design that we want to go for, right? But the format is the way I want to hit it, right? Because when we look at this, the way I pursued my ideation, right? So if you know, looking at these 4 different cameras, you know, this is a normal SLR based off of that kind of Nikon F2, because there's this kind of, you know, part on top that the Nikon F2 has. And I was thinking, like, you know, the top part could be that, you know, robot that kind of handles the camera, right? Because the idea would be that there's this spirit that inhabits this camera and then kind of, you know, eats this smartphone, you know, and it kind of starts, you know, being manipulated somehow. And in real life, there's a camera just like this, or not just like this, but the whole idea is there's this top portion that it, you know, it looks like it kind of interacts with all these dials and stuff. And that's kind of really what I wanted. So that was the first idea we had. It's basically the same model that we had last week. The only difference is I just added some color and added some pattern. Now I'll show you the 3D file in a second. But you know, that was the first idea, right? So from there, I was like, okay, cool, let's change the format. So now, instead of an SLR camera, right? Basically an SLR camera has a viewfinder on the backside there, and then the, you know, light comes in here and you kind of see what's happening in there, right? In this one, it's a rangefinder, right? So this one is, the viewport is actually to the left a little bit. It's a different style of camera. If you're ever like interacting with photography and stuff, there's a couple different styles of cameras that you can pick from. And a rangefinder is one of my favorite cameras to kind of interact with. But, you know, I just picked that and I was like, oh, what if the robot section, right, was this section right here? It's the grip plus the you know, the bottom grip and then the extension grip. And instead of interacting with the dials themselves, maybe it's interacting with the bottom of the camera, the mechanics inside, right? I'll show you the back in a second. Well, I'll open Blender and we'll kind of see how that goes. And then this one is a medium format SLR camera. So it's actually very similar to this, except the medium format has a bigger like kind of film roll. And then I was like, oh, what if the viewfinder part right here was that 3D section? And then this is a TLR, which is a twin reflex lens camera. Basically, it's just 2 lenses. You're looking out of this one, but you're taking the picture through that one, right? But the whole point is just finding different formats, because if I did like 4 versions of this, those are actually variations and not ideations, right? And you really want to be careful, because what happens is, let's say I took this direction. I was like, okay, cool. I like where that's going. I like where it's at. And then, you know, I kind of did like 5 of these, and maybe I changed the shapes of this. I kind of changed the lensing or whatever it is. And then they're like, oh, we don't want an SLR camera. We actually wanted more of a TLR, right? You know, one of these double lens cameras, right? And that's an issue because now you don't have the variety, because, you know, whenever you send this camera and send this design in, right? What they're going to be like is, oh, that's pretty cool. We like this format. Let's take this format plus like some of the design cues that you kind of did on here, and then, you know, apply it on or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, we'll kind of push this idea further. But now we have 4 different directions that we can go, and then we kind of pick one. And then now, once they pick one, I can do 4 or 5 variations of this thing. You know what I'm saying? So, because really what you want to do, right? Like whenever we are creating, nope, not that one. There it is. Right, whenever we're creating our ideas, right, we want to get to here. Right, the whole point is you want to get to like idea, right? Idea, right? We want to get here. We're starting here. And then in an ideal world, it's, you know, boom. You know, you go from like nothing, right? You start at 0, you know, and then this is 100%. But we know it doesn't work that way because, you know, if I were to describe what the hell it's like to do ideations, right? It's literally shooting for a target in the dark and you don't know where the target's at. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, just imagine you turn off the room, turn off all the lights in your room, you put on a blindfold or whatever. And I told you, hey, there's a target somewhere in this room. Find it. And all you have is just a gun, and you have to like point in a direction. You have to shoot. You don't know if it's behind you. You don't know if it's above you. You don't know anything. You know what I mean? And really, what we have, it's not a linear line. It's actually a web, right? Because you start in the middle and you work your way towards a certain direction, right? So in this case, right, if I were to visualize this metaphor, right? Perhaps let's do this. Let's do this properly. Let's make a perfect circle, right? Oopsies. So I'm taking a long time to explain this, but this is actually very important because this is actually what's separate. If you're ever wondering, like, oh yeah, I've been a junior artist for, you know, this amount of time. I don't really have a lot of experience, and for some reason, you know, I'm not getting the promotions or I'm not getting whatever, right? And if you're ever wondering, you know, why you're struggling so much with your concepts, this thought process is really kind of where one of the bigger things that you might want to, I guess, learn how to figure out. You know what I mean? So, for example, you know, we're going to erase this because we don't need that line right now, right? Okay, so I'm in the middle, and I'm like, okay, the idea is somewhere in this room, right? I'm looking top down at this room, right? And then what I want to do is I'm going to shoot here, and I'm going to shoot there. I'm going to try this way. I'm going to try that way. I'm going to try this way, try that way, try this way, right? And maybe I don't even nail it that close. You know what I mean? Like, what if, like, you know, it's, you know, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different ideas, right? I could probably do it in 6, but, you know, this is 8 different possible ideas, possible directions. And, you know, what if you hit it like there? And you're like, oh yeah, this one's the closest. And then you kind of like dial it in and you make it closer. But let's say if you know, this is that one idea, right? This is the camera on the left of the first one that we did, and you did 5 of these. You did 5 shots all within the same section. You know what I mean? That's the issue, because now if you've ever had interactions like, and this is everybody, right? If you've ever had interactions with an art director, a lead, or a client, and they just go, that's not really what we're looking for. You know what I mean? Usually it's because you're shooting in the wrong direction, right? You're kind of aiming yourself, or you're committing too much to one idea, and you're not really, you know, I guess, giving them enough variety, right? Because they don't really know what they're looking for sometimes, right? They don't really know exactly what it's going to be, but they do have a general idea once they see it. And that's something where, you know, unfortunately, if you're kind of interacting with some sort of creative lead or whatever, that, you know, maybe it's kind of like, just keep shooting until we find something. Just keep giving us variations and ideas, right? This is kind of how I like to go about it. And usually within two rounds, 3 rounds, maybe shit, even the first round, I'll find the idea very quickly, right? Because, I'm shooting this way, shooting this way, shooting that way, shooting that way. And they're like, oh, hey, yeah, we like that one. Cool, let's go that way. And then we'll kind of proceed and dial it in even further. You know what I mean? But if I went 5 different variations of that, they're like, oh, we don't even like the SLR camera. We don't even like that Nikon and F2 based camera. We want like one like this, like a Hasselblad, right? Different cameras. We don't know what they are. But the whole idea is, whenever I'm doing this, I'm really trying to set direction. We're not trying to hit it in the first try. We're trying to set ourselves up to hit it in the least amount of tries possible, right? And then because of that, I'd probably like take this maybe 10, 20% further. This is a raw render just from Blender, right? Like it's really nothing. I didn't do anything to it other than just click render, right? But I would take this, I'd probably paint it up, 10, 20% each one, just a little bit, give me a little bit of more of that character or that material or whatever. That way they have something to look at. And then from here, we kind of go further, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Long explanation, but the whole idea is, as a concept artist, one of the I guess worst things that you can do is kind of commit too early, because at the end of the day, right, something that happens in like classes, it's just your idea. Especially like, for example, like in a class like mine, you kind of give me a bunch of ideas. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. But ultimately I say, go whatever direction that you feel like going, because that's what's gonna make you excited and kind of make you go for whatever it is. But in production, they pick, because it's their idea, it's their money, it's their product, and so they have to ultimately decide, what direction you want to go, and you kind of have to be prepared for that, right? You don't really know what they want, and you have to give them a menu, a tasting menu, to be like, oh, it's kind of like this, All right, so let's check this out. So I'm just gonna kind of show you what I did. Really nothing that crazy. This is the, I'm gonna turn off these lights and stuff. So these are the cameras that I kind of made, right? I just kind of laid them out, and it's the same exact cameras you saw 10 seconds ago. But I kind of want to talk about some of the logic that I was going through, right? Excuse me. So the first thing, right, is that whenever I do this, I'm trying to find a spot where I can clearly delineate between object and I guess like robot, right? Because for example, in these cameras, right, because I still want that like old camera feel. I still want that like classic kind of, vintage camera idea, because, that's an aesthetic that I'm trying to go for, right? It's even like, if you think about the centipede idea we had, previous weeks, right? It's very much like, it's still the same kind of, you can still see the primary thing that it is. Really, it didn't form too much. The pieces are, wrapped together differently, but the idea is generally the same, and you can kind of still tell what it is, right? And that's really what I want to do here. I don't want to like morph the camera too much. I want this camera to kind of be added on, and then there's something interacting with it, right? And so I kind of color coded it red in this case, because the phone case in Pokemon is red because the Pokemon itself is red. I was like, oh yeah, what if it's just like this red thing that the interfaces, right? And it literally turns like an old film camera into a digital one, right? And it's all interfaced kind of through here. So for example, maybe I can turn this thing into some sort of character, and then maybe the straps themselves can like kind of come out and kind of interact with the camera, and almost turn a manual camera, something that's very like, hard to kind of use, into a very, I guess, automatic camera, like you would something you would find like nowadays, right? So I still need to kind of add that personality, that quirk to it, and the straps and stuff, but that's what we're doing today, right? So with that in mind, right, I guess, which one do you guys think is cooler? Just curious. I'm like, part of me is like, having that standard camera, right? Like the one on the left side here. That's kind of like, it's kind of cool, but I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like it's very like normal. You know what I mean? I just feel like I think like Like the twin reflex camera, the one on the left here, I'm like excited about that. I think but it just doesn't, like, I guess the format itself doesn't quite make sense for you know what we're trying to do here, which is nature photography, right? So I was thinking maybe, I don't know, a good in between is like this medium format one, and I was actually kind of thinking like it'd be kind of cool to see, like, it's basically this character, right? Like this I guess piece is gonna be the robot itself, right? I'll design this shape to be better, right? To kind of make it format just a little bit nicer. But like, you know, and then it's gonna have like the straps connected to it, and then those are gonna act as the arms, and that arm's gonna interact with the crank here to kind of make it, you know, it's gonna like, it's like it's sitting on top of a camera, and it can like interact with like the focus ring and all that stuff in the bellows, right? And I think that'd be kind of fun. Like watching I don't know, watching a robot kind of do that would be kind of interesting, you know? So I'm kind of leaning towards this one. I don't quite know yet though. So, 3, I like the shapes. 3 is this one, right? The one we're talking about, Omar?
I think I feel the same way as you. Number 4, the double lens one, is probably the most interesting in terms of shapes. But,
yeah, it's like,
you gotta think about the project.
And I think something too, like it, you know, if you're not really familiar with cameras, I'm not saying you are or aren't, but you know, if you never like, if you don't really interact with cameras that much, it's like the most different one, right? And it's actually pretty cool. This is based off of a real camera, right? It's, I mean, you know, the forms and stuff. You can actually kind of see the cheats. Like you see this section right there, those 2 dots, right? You know, that little bump right there. It's just this camera. I just literally, for anybody like kind of wondering how I did this and how long it took me, like this took me like another, like from this one camera here, I made these 3 cameras in about, I don't know, 4 hours, maybe, you know what I mean? And so like, you know, all I did was I just took these pieces, that piece right there, or this, I guess these 2 pieces, right? And I duplicated over. I kind of like shifted some pieces. I kind of did some things to make it better or whatever. And I made this bottom section. This side, this handle section is just this side right there. You know, this top piece is that top piece. Same with that one. Boom. That, you know, that corner there. And the cool part about it doesn't actually truly matter. You know, whenever we first start our ideations, you know, I do this in 2D and I do this in 3D, right? It doesn't truly matter what those kind of shapes end up being because we're going to do a variation pass. But as long as the format roughly matches kind of like what we're thinking, you know what I mean? It has a, I don't know. It because, you know, you'd look at this and be like, yeah, they look very similar, right? But it is following that kind of design language that we're talking about. And so now all you really got to do is just take each one and just paint it up, you know, change up things just a little bit, remodel a couple things here and there, but getting an idea a little bit quicker, right? That's really kind of what we're about. You know what I mean? So nice. I might go with 3. I might go with 3 here, just because like I'm just kind of liking where it's at, and it's already in the middle, so I don't have to like move it or anything. So with this in mind, right? I kind of wanted to. I was gonna show you guys like the TLR cameras, TLR camera, and this is the cool part. Like something that I like to bring up a lot, right? Whenever we're designing, is bring in your hobbies. Do something that like you're actually interested in, because a lot of this stuff I didn't even know existed up until, you know, a couple of years ago. Whenever I started like kind of messing with cameras and stuff, and like. It just has a, you know, if someone saw this for the first time and didn't really know what a camera looked like it would surprise you just at least a little bit. At least it would for me, you know, like I'd never seen anything like that, you know. But then the people that actually, you know, enjoy this product, you know, do these things, they, you know, they latch onto it. There's something about it. It feels deeper, right? And this is the kind of like intrigue that you kind of need to hit every time you're designing something, right? You're not just designing something that doesn't have a soul. You're designing a hobby, an interest, there's a history of these cameras, and you kind of want to represent that, right? So like, you know, I was looking at these TLR cameras, these like the Rolleiflex. I was actually, I have a, where's it at? I have this exact one. I actually got it at an auction. Let me C330. There you go. So this thing is huge. It's like a tank. But like I really because I have this exact one. I got it at an auction for basically free a couple months ago, and like, you know, it's just really fun. It's just really like interesting to use. You know, it's a medium format camera, and then like this one, I'm actually looking for a camera like this one here. So if you guys are looking, you guys have a Hasselblad or Nikon F2, let me know. Ask your grandparents; they might have it. But yeah, so that's what I'm gonna kind of go for. What I'm gonna do today, right, is I'm gonna spend a little more time. This is a variation day, right? This is kind of where we push this design, you know, 10, 20, 30% further, and then we'll get into rendering the next week. So I'm not really gonna get into painting quite yet. I am gonna mess with this just a bit further, and ultimately kind of create a more impressive design before we kind of commit to, you know, I guess doing, before committing to actually like painting and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, but I'll turn these off. And the way I like organizing my files, right? If you guys are, you know, I guess new to 3D at all, right? The way I really like to organize my files, or just because it can get a little bit messy. It's not like Photoshop in the sense that like it, you know, it leaves it in the layers that you set up, right? It's going to organize it in alphabetical order, right? Like the way it's named. So I like to kind of put everything in collections, and that's why I can just turn things off whenever I don't need it. And that lens is in the wrong section, but oh well. We don't need it anyway. So, you know, and then I have my set in its own little thing, right? All my lights, cameras, and stuff like that. That way, like, you know, because I have a angle that I was trying to hit, and then that way I can like always go back to it, but I don't always want to see it. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily need it around all the time. So this is really helpful if you guys are actually looking to, you know, or just organize things a bit better, because, you know, messing with files sucks. All right, so this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take this camera, right? We're gonna just kind of improve the model, right? There's a lot of things here where it's like I just took pieces, like this is the same lens from the other one. I just took, like, you can see how that's the same piece, just smaller and black, right? You know, nothing really that crazy. A lot of these dials, you know, a lot of these smaller things. So I'm going to take this, push it a bit further, and then we'll kind of see how it goes, you know? So let's see. Oh, if you guys have any questions, I guess now would be the time. This is, I have some things I do want to talk about. Just some like, just general like production things, you know what I mean? There's, I think there's like a big mystery behind like a lot of, I don't know, the ways that, you know, we interact with production, or the, you know, things that you actually need need skill wise as an artist. And I did want to talk about that, just to kind of, I guess, get a general understanding of like, you know, what to kind of expect. You know what I mean? I think there's this, because I had a couple conversations this past week with some friends, and you know, I just really want to kind of make sure that we understand, like, oh yeah, this is, you know, this is what we need to kind of know, versus like, you know, I guess some of the things that you hear online that's maybe not quite as true. You know what I mean? So at this point, right, I'm trying to do a couple things. I'm trying to make sure that my forms look a little bit better, right? There's a little more, I guess, sophistication behind things, but also I'm trying to incorporate some of those other form language that we brought in, right? Because we had that Pokeball idea, right, from before. And you kind of saw it in my, where's it at? I had it like here, you know what I mean? Or even the fact that like this piece right there is like kind of separated in two, and there's like a red portion and a silver portion, right? These little things. And this one I think has it the least. So at this point, I'm trying to just trying to bring that in and make sure that you know, everything kind of thematically matches, you know. So boom. Let's see. How's life, guys? How's the things? Oh, I heard Riot let go a lot of people. Unfortunately, I don't know if I think one of my students was affected by that, but it's unfortunate. It's I don't know what happened, but yeah, that sucks. That's a tragedy.
Do you know if a lot of those video game layoffs that have been happening, are those like uh, restricted to certain departments, or is it like have you heard about like have art departments been taking big of hits, or is it more like marketing and stuff like that?
From what yeah, I don't truly know, so I can't honestly say like 100%. But from what I have been hearing, it has been affecting artists. I'm not really like for example like on LinkedIn and stuff. I don't see a lot of like other I guess job roles, just because the people I'm connected with are usually like artists and stuff like that, you know. So I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's affecting basically everyone, like just the whole way through, just because of like I guess the whenever you let go of a team, it's not just like artists, right? It's a whole bunch of different people involved, right?
Yeah, that's too bad to hear about.
Yeah. It sucks too. Like, it's funny because I don't know. I feel like there's this idea of like job security, right? Where I'll talk to students sometimes and I go, oh, hey, where do you want to work? You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, I want to work at this big studio, right? Because it's job security here. And, it is something where, I mean, that could be true. I don't truly know, right? I mean, at the end of the day, wherever you, like, there's people that have worked in places for, 20 plus years. But, in my experience, from everything that I've, I guess, experienced in this short, 8-9 years that I've been working, it's like, there really isn't job security basically anywhere, right? Yeah. There's places that, you're, I guess you'll be hired, for maybe a little longer than, I guess, let's say like a normal place, right? But I guess if you're really shooting for that like job security, right, it's really hard for me to say like, oh yeah, you'll be safe there. You know what I mean? Because as soon as the game launches and it doesn't do well, as soon as, they just didn't make as much money as they had planned, it's like, it's not personal. It's just, it is what it is, right? They're not malicious about it, they're not like, oh, I'm gonna get Kenny, right? Like that asshole specifically, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, shit, they might, who knows? Maybe they say that behind their backs, but the whole idea is that as soon as something goes wrong, they have to protect their assets. They have to do something to kind of make this company kind of work, because that's what it is at the end of the day. And I I'll talk to people, and they'll get their dream jobs, which is perfect, right? Which is what we want, right? That's like, you want to get to Riot, you want to get to Disney, you want to get to wherever, perfect. Do that, right? But they stop looking and they stop trying, and they're like, oh, I just want to relax, I just want to do these things, and which is very valid, right? Which is very true with which is very like, that's normal, right? You just want to live your life, you want to hang out with your family, you want to do whatever. But the reality is, a lot of these places, they do a lot of letting go, especially nowadays, where it's like there's AI on the horizon. They're figuring out how to incorporate a lot of these things. They don't really quite know yet, but not to say that it won't happen, And I think like that job security really is your skill, right? If you're somebody that is very comfortable with where they're at, I don't want to say, I don't want, like, I'm not trying to shame anybody that is comfortable, but it is something where it's like, you really don't want to just wait. You know what I mean? Because if you're just hanging out and you're just kind of like, just, I guess, you're like, I'm good. You know what I mean? It's like, it's bad. It's, it sucks, but at the end of the day, it's like, you're basically just waiting to get let go. There's no like, I guess, there's no job that's just going to keep you forever, especially nowadays, right? Like, my parents, they ask me like, oh, why do you, jump around jobs so much? Why do you go from studio to studio, And it's like, because you can't just stay at a place expecting, 30, 40 years of service to just go like, oh yeah, he's good. We'll keep him even at our inconvenience. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't work that way anymore. And we as artists, we really have to know that, because I've seen people like give up opportunities and stuff like, you know, I'm comfortable here, you know, or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, everything's good right now. But I think as soon as, you know, the economy tanks for whatever reason, you know, the wrong person tweeted this thing, you know, or X'd or whatever it's called, you know, and a stock tanks, right? It's like, oh yeah, remember how we were family? We're not that close. You know, it's like we're not, we're cool, but I'll call you back. Let me, you know, I hope you have money saved up. You know what I mean? And it kind of sucks because I've been to places that are super into like, oh yeah, you know, we have immense job security. We try to keep all of our employees. Something went wrong, they literally let go of like 3 or 4 teams. I'm like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. You know, like and. Yeah, you could just, you know, I guess enjoy the fact that you're employed there. But in reality, it's like you should probably be looking. Even if they pay you well, even if they're like, you know, even if you make a decent amount of money, just be looking. You don't have to apply. You don't have to be, you know, you don't have to like actively pursue it. But if something comes up or you find something, you know, just apply, see what happens. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, the worst case scenario, the worst thing that can happen to you, right? If you find a job that's like, you know, I guess, kind of cool, and you're like, oh yeah, maybe I want to work there, right? And it doesn't work out. I mean, you're just exactly where you were, you know, to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, if you didn't get the job, all you did was get rejected. It really doesn't matter, I guess, if you didn't get it or not, you know, because now you're still paid at your normal job, but you know, I guess you have a better understanding of maybe what other studios are kind of looking for, you know. Sorry for the background noise. It's I don't live alone, so. But you know how it is. Just I'll turn up the music a little bit. Hopefully that drowns something out. I don't know. The Discord people can't hear it, but you know, it is what it is. So, as I'm doing this, we're just going through the pieces. You know what I mean? Like, I think something that happens a lot whenever, like, especially with modeling and stuff, right? If you're uncomfortable with modeling, if you're somebody that really doesn't enjoy it, like I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really enjoy it before. Not that I'm like super ecstatic about it now, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I do it. You've seen me do it, and I do it for streams and stuff when we're designing. But you know, I'm not like dying to do it. You know, like some people are like very gung ho about 3D, which is, I mean, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, like, I'm just doing what I can, right? Like, whenever I'm doing this, you know, all I'm doing is I'm just taking pieces, stretching it around. And it's not the coolest model in the world. There's a lot of like disgusting shit happening. You know, like, look at that. Like, look at that auto smooth. You know what I mean? I can fix that. Let's see. There you go. Should I even just shape flat that? There it is. Maybe that's better. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of little things. That wasn't like the best example, but like, there's a lot of little things that could be better, right? And at the end of the day, you know, if you are, I guess, struggling with, I guess, understanding how to model and stuff, just remember that, like, all you got to do is, you know, just try and take things as far as you can, and just remember some of the tricks that you learned. Like, I think for me, you know, I used to do a lot of studies, right? And, you know, studies was like, you know, you do a painting of a thing, right? I was like, well, what if I just built it? You know, so this is water bottle that I have here. It's not a Stanley, but, you know, I guess I'm not cool enough for that. But I built this bottle like 10 times, you know what I mean? Because I was like, I couldn't get these curves right. There's this, for those looking in camera, there's like these curves, this lid. It's kind of weird. And I just couldn't figure that out for the longest time. And there's a lot of like things like that where you just kind of learn how to address it, you know? And after a good amount of models, then you start being like, oh, okay, I think I know how this kind of works. You know what I mean? So, does this work? Does that work? I think it worked. I might have fucked things up pretty hard, but no, I didn't. Nice. Look at that. Let's go, dude. Because I wanted this piece. That's what I truly wanted. Actually, scale. Set origin, geometry. Dude, look at those bellows, bro. And they move? Fucking gangster, bro. Let's go. Michi says something I wanted to ask last time. Not sure if you answered this before, but what is the funniest or weirdest reaction you ever got from a design? I don't know, man. You know, I think one of the last things you want is like a funny reaction. Like they just start laughing. You know, that's terrible. Let me think. The weirdest reactions I got. I've gotten like this looks like a penis type of design. You know what I mean? We kind of have a good laugh at that. I'm like, ah, shit, I gotta change that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the proportions of like the head and shaft, right? It's like, you know, it gets kind of. I mean, they're good proportions. You know what I mean? It's natural, right? It's probably following some sort of golden ratio. So you know, I've had that every once in a while. You know, I don't know, man. I haven't had that crazy. Like I've had bad reactions where they're like, "What the hell is this?" Like that's not what we asked for at all. I'm like, "Oh shit," you know, like I've had ones where like they're like basically like you kind of lose all trust, or you lost all trust with their reaction. You know what I mean? Like that's bad. Where they're like, "This is terrible," and they give it to like when they give it to somebody else. Oh, that's the worst. I've had that. I'm not even gonna lie. That's you know, it is what it is. But I haven't had one that was like funny. You know what I mean? I have had even recently. I was doing some work for a client, and I didn't get any feedback. You know, and it was odd. It freaked. I'm gonna be honest. It freaked me out. You know what I mean? If you've ever done like concept design for a client before, right? There is always, and I can't emphasize this enough, always notes, right? Like if you're not getting notes, you're not a concept artist. You know what I mean? Like it's just odd. It's like, you know, I can't explain how much notes that we get as concept artists. You know what I mean? And so, as a concept artist, when you don't get notes, it freaks me the hell out. Cause I'm like, did I mess up? You know, is there something wrong with me? Are you not going to use this image? You know what I mean? Are we wasting our time here? Like, have they given up on you? You know, that's what I really want to know, because it's like, you know, like it's not my product. It's usually like, you know, it's somebody else's thing. It's, you know, they're making a thing and they're expecting me to kind of, you know, I guess do it. Right. And so, I just didn't get any feedback. I got looks great. This is amazing. And they just finish up. I was like, cool. So I did that. I took it to the next stage. And then right before we submitted, I did another final check. And, it was like, and he goes, "That looks great. Just wrap it up and send it." I was like, wait, what? I was like, am I messing up? Like I had to like ask my partner, and I'm like, is there something wrong? Like, can you check this real quick? You know, it was wild. I was just like, dude, this doesn't happen. Like I should have bought a lotto ticket or something, like coming out of it, because that shit was nuts. You know, because I've never had that in my 8 years of doing concepts for people, like not learning, but like just doing concepts for clients and stuff. It's always been, oh, that looks great. Here, can you add a couple of these things? You know what I mean? Can you do this or that? And you know, yeah, of course, because you know that's what we do. We're concept artists, right? Like you just make it happen. Yeah, not this time. And I was nervous, dude. I was like, what the hell? So that was weird. All right. Yeah, no feedback is perfect in the first go. I don't know, man. I just don't feel like that's true. Maybe I'm just like, I don't know, like nervous or something. Like I've just like nervous cat energy, right? Where it's like, if you didn't get feedback, like they're putting in like thousands of dollars for this thing. You know, like you'd get feedback, wouldn't you? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, you know, you put in a couple grand to make this concept, right? Like, I mean, there's got to be something you want to say about it. Like nothing, you know? So I don't know. Or maybe I'm crazy. Who knows? But maybe I'm just being overreacting, and I've never, I don't know. I've just never had something go that well before. You know what I mean? Like you ever look at life and you're like, man, it's like something's off. Like everything's going too well. You know what I mean? Like in my mind, I'm just like, dude, I'm just waiting for the storm, dude. Like something's wrong. Like, like something's about to blow, you know? That's kind of how I see it. Maybe I'm just crazy. Kenny got so good, he can't believe it. I don't know, bro. I don't know, man. I don't know anybody that's never done notes before. Art director of this certain project that I won't name. If you're hearing this, yeah, it freaked me the hell out, man. Like, I doubt you're watching this, but you know, you do follow me on Instagram, so I think we follow each other on Instagram, so doesn't mean he's here, but just saying, this do be live. As I as I mess with these pixels, anybody got any questions? Anybody like wondering like anything? What ails you? I think I have some stuff I want to talk about in a bit. I'll wait a little longer. We still have some time. We're still early in the day. The night is young, right? But I just kind of wanted to just see what things you guys want to talk about. I don't know if there's a better way to do this. Straightening out curves and stuff. I was like, just grab it and like scale it vertically or something, or scale in the axis that I need to straighten it out. And it kind of works nice. I don't know. It's probably like seeing a bunch of modelers just throw up. Just like, what the fuck is he doing? But you know what? Yeah, it is what it is. Dewey says, how's your business going? It's good, man. I think so. I've been freelancing for a little while. For those that don't know, I'm full-time freelance right now, and it's been cool. I think I mean, you know, luckily I've been getting enough work to stay alive, or I mean, you know, stay more than alive. But you know, it's like it's always weird. You know, it's always scary. Just trying to like, I don't know, go out and do something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's I definitely don't recommend it for the faint of heart. But it's good. I think you know, hopefully things kind of stay that way, you know? I don't know, but yeah, I think it is definitely something that I'm excited that I guess enough like studios and people kind of like trust that I'll pull through for them, you know what I mean? It's funny. I think I kind of like because I've been working for a little while now, not like an excessive amount of time, but you know, a decent amount to where I've, you know, generally speaking, I've interacted with, you know, a whole variety of clients. And it's always kind of amazes me that like people put that much, I guess, trust. I don't say trust, but you know, they put that much, they believe in my ability that much. It's always a little freaky, you know. It's always a little wild, because you gotta imagine, like, you know, when you're billing at a normal concept art rate, it's like, you know, hey, here's a couple $1,000s, you know what I mean? And that's just like a normal rate. That's not even like some of the high rates, you know, that people can actually hit. It's like, yeah, here's a couple $1,000s. Can you just do this? You know what I mean? You're like, what the hell? You know, just imagine someone like gave you just that money on the street. Like, that'd freak you out, wouldn't it? Like, it'd be, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. But it's always a little weird. It's nice. I think like tabling at I've been tabling at Lightbox last couple of years. I didn't do it this past year, but I did the two before that. It's always a little weird because like, you know, these people are giving you like money. You know what I mean? Like, because like, you know, when you're on Instagram, and I tell some of my friends this all the time, I'm like, when you're on Instagram, it's whatever. You know what I mean? Like, to kind of get a like on Instagram, it's really not that crazy, right? Because it's like, it's free. You know, at the end of the day, it's like, it really doesn't cost them anything. So, you know, it's like, yeah, I got a bunch of likes on Instagram, which is great, you know, or on ArtStation or whatever you want to, whatever system you want to get likes on, right? But like whenever someone puts down like $30, $20, you're like, what the dude, that's wild. You know what I mean? Like you might get a lot of likes on Instagram, but do they give you money? You know what I mean? Do they like drop a bill on you? Will they break a $5 for you? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just like, I think for me, it's very, it's always so, I don't know. It's trippy. You know what I mean? I don't know. It always amazes me that someone would like do that, you know? All right. Kenny merch when? I'm working on it. Not Kenny merch, but you know, I am working on something, so stay tuned. We have some, I got some stuff planned. I'm trying to see if we can do this concept art exit. I don't say exit, but you know, I'd much rather be like live streaming with you guys than working for clients. Just being real here. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like I think client work's cool, but at the end of the day, it's like I don't enjoy it that much, you know? But Omar says, what would be a good way to look for work? I barely see any official openings for studios for concept art. In your experience, have you found work through networking? Yeah, so let me get that swig of water. In my opinion, right, getting work through the front door is fucking impossible. I don't say impossible, it happens, but you know what I mean? Like it's not a good experience, to say the least. I don't know how we can make it better, you know? I don't know what we can do to make that experience not so like soul crushingly bad. You know what I mean? Like as an industry, like it sucks. Let's be real here. Like everybody that's ever applied for a job, how many of you were like, wow, that was painless? That didn't crush my soul. You know? Like I didn't, you know, think about quitting the entire career, you know, because this shit didn't go well. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know anybody that's had a great experience applying through the front door. You know what I mean? Like when, you know, applying for a place. And that's bad, isn't it? Like, I don't know, maybe it's like that. And I'm sure it's like that in every industry. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not every, but most industries, right? But especially in art, my God, like it is terrible. Like your self-worth gets questioned, you know, obviously, you know, you shouldn't, but that's, you know, that's not the world we live in, right? A lot of people have a really hard time applying for jobs, and it's a terrible, terrible thing to even want to do. You know what I mean? But we have to do it. We have to, just because that's the world we live in, right? And I think for me, applying for places is I would say the hardest way to find work, right? Just flat out. The best way for me has been through friends. I'm hesitant to say networking, and the reason I'm hesitant to say networking is because it's not really networking, right? It's not really like, we're not really like, I guess go into these people and be like, hey man, you want to network? You want to be my friend? You know what I mean? We really don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, maybe some people do. It doesn't work. I guarantee it. But I think a lot of people like kind of take for granted, like how much of an impact being a friend really is. You know what I mean? Like, because one of the bigger things that really happens whenever you, I guess, meet people, right, is that these people, you kind of have someone that can vouch for you. You know what I mean? You have somebody that can is trustworthy in the company. So it's kind of like, you know, hey, I don't know you, Kenny, but so and so, you know, Dave thinks that you're pretty cool. So we think Dave's cool. And so if you're cool, Dave, we're cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're a friend of my friend. You know what I mean? Like that's usually how that works. And so whenever you get hired through a friend, it's so much easier. So much. Like, for those that have experienced, like, you know, basically, I want to say almost all, like 90% of the jobs that I've gotten was through just a friend, and they were like, "Hey, are you free to work? We have something. You know what I mean? We just need somebody to come in and help us out, or, you know, do whatever, right?" And usually I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure," you know. And then we have the interview, and it's fast. It's like, you know, you talk to HR because they're like, "Oh, hey, you know, what rate are you looking for? This is what we're expecting, blah, 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 this and that." It's usually pretty easy. But if you ever go through like a normal interview, you know what I mean? Like, you ever go through like going through like talking to actual people where they don't even know you, you know, it's so weird. It's very awkward. And it's like, you know, it's just like this kind of, this dance that you have to do with these people. And it's like, you know, it's not, I don't know. I just don't feel like it's a very successful kind of thing. It's not a great, in my experience, it hasn't really been that great, you know, just by, you know, I guess interacting with people that way, you know what I mean? I just don't enjoy it at all. And so for me, I would say networking is not really the way, because that idea of like, hey, let's network is not really effective, because we don't know each other, right? Not me and you, but I mean, let's be honest, like, you know, we've never met in person. But with like networking, like if you hit someone up on LinkedIn, it's very much like, oh, cool. Hey, man, you're part of my network. Great. I mean, you know, I don't know you at all. You know what I mean? But when it's a friend, it's like, oh yeah, I trust this person. I know this person. We hang out. You know, I was at his wife's birthday or whatever. You know, and that does so much more. You know, and it's hard. It's hard to find that. I definitely don't think it's something that's like, oh, it just, you know, comes naturally, or just, you know, it's very like, I don't think it's very easy to do stuff like that, right? But it really is like, where, like, you know, you have to like find those moments, right? Because I think a lot of people kind of, like, for example, in my classes, you know, we're just in class. It's just a world building class or a digital painting class, and it's like, hey, you know, I need some help on a thing. And you're like, sorry, man, I'm looking for some real networking. You know what I mean? Or whatever. You know, it's like, you know, it's a very asshole-ish move to like be in a class and try to be always, I guess, I don't know, like scoping people out. You know what I mean? But it's the people that are like just around, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll help you out. You know what I mean? I'll this is how I figured out the thing. You know what I mean? And those people is really where that networking truly happens. Because your network is usually just a bunch of friends, to be honest. It's usually just a bunch of people that are like, oh, hey, we took classes together in school, and now we're all working. You know what I mean? Like, that's usually all it is. And in my experience, it is the best way to find work. It's almost been the only way, to be honest, because, you know, it's so hard. It is so hard to find work in this industry. And I'm not saying that like, you know, as, oh, you know, I'm not trying to tell you, you know what I mean? Like, it really is one of the most difficult things you can possibly do, as a person, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so fucking hard. And I think, people really underestimate that. And, the best way to do that, it really is make friends, you know, talk to people. And don't be like, because people can tell, you know what I mean? When you walk up to a thing and, you know, you're being all weird, or you're like kind of very networky, you know what I mean? People know, like, you know, when someone's like that, you know what I mean? We all know people like that, you know? But in reality, it really is like, you know, be a friend, be someone that's helpful, be someone that just does things, you know what I mean? Because that goes such a long way, you know?
Hey Kenny,
What's up, dude?
if you like had some connections for people who were not necessarily like in the art field directly, but probably would still be able to like vouch for you or something like that, what kind of things would you ask, or like who would be good for you to like ask for, oh, could you put me in touch with so and so? Like what would probably be the best strategy for that?
I think for me, like, yeah, like, 'cause you can't know everybody, right? And it's like, what's the best way to do all that? For me personally, I usually say like your teachers are probably some of the best contacts that you have in the industry. That's not like a personal friend. You know what I mean? Like, because, you know, like a stranger really wouldn't do that, right? If you only met them like once, even met them once, is like, it's hard for me to be like, oh, hey, dude, can you put my name in with Norris? I'm like, I mean, I don't really know you. You know what I mean? But if you're my student, right, it's a whole different story, because now it's like, oh, yeah, I know your work ethic. I know your abilities. I know where you're lacking. And I know if you can even get the job or not, generally speaking. I'm like, you know, just look at your work and be like, oh, yeah, they're pretty good. Or it's like, you know, you still have a couple years left. You still have, you know, whatever. You know what I mean? So the best thing you can do is just, you know, stay in contact with your teachers, stay in communication with these people, because at the end of the day, they know your work ethic, they know your ability better than some random person online. After that, you know, just go to events, meet people, do things. I think that's, for me, one of the best things that really happens is when you go to events, people hold like meetups all the time. There's like sketch crawls. There's, you know, like, for example, I do a plein air group with a bunch of people, right? And we're just hanging out, you know what I mean? But the whole point is we're getting to know each other. And that's the whole idea. You know, it's not like, yeah, obviously we're there to paint, but, you know, I'm really just there to hang out with people. You know what I mean? And so it's something where, as much as you can, you want to kind of meet people and hang out, do things, people in your area, because, you know, maybe some people are in the middle of nowhere, there's not a lot of concept artists, but I would say there's a concept artist in every state, right? And just try to be around if possible. If not, you know, there's Discords and stuff that you can kind of interact with there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny though. I interact with some students or just people in general, and like we'll go painting, or like I set up, and I've been doing this since like 2015, 2016. You know what I mean? And we were doing it for like months, you know. And some of my best friends are the ones that just went to that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like they're like, I suck at painting and I need to get better. And they just said, okay, cool, we'll just go to this thing. You know what I mean? And it's funny because, you know, I'll interact with people and in classes and stuff, and they'll be like, oh yeah, you know, I don't really know of any events and stuff. And I'm like, oh, we do plein air. I'm like, oh yeah, but not that. You know what I mean? Or whatever. You know, it's like anything but like going out and actually like doing something that's not, you know, I don't know, like it has to be like it has to look like a networking event for them to like actually go. You know what I mean? And it's like you probably, I'll say like this, but you probably shouldn't interact like that. That's not a way to interact with people. You know what I mean? So there it is. Shannon says, I'm out here too chicken to hit on my teacher. You know, it's funny. I tell every single one of my students, every single one, right? If you've been in my class, you've heard me say these words. If you ever need anything, hit me up, you know? And there's like 300 people in the Discord at least. And there's probably like 600 students total. Not every student joins the Discord or whatever. And I've said this to every student in my class. And I get, you know, people hit me up. I'm not saying they don't, but I'm just like, I get like 5 students, maybe, you know, maybe like I don't know, maybe closer to like 4 or 3 that, you know, will actually hit me up and actually like, you know, ask for feedback or ask for help on things. And I'm like, you know, I'm not saying like hit me up for every little thing, but like, just, I mean, you know, just understand, like I said that, but I don't really get that many people hit me up. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that, I'm not saying you need to hit me up specifically, but if you're not doing it for me, you're probably not doing it for like other teachers as well. You know what I mean? And that's the gold mine. You know what I mean? Those are the people that can vouch for you. If you're ever looking for somebody that is, you know, able to like, cause it's always like, oh yeah, I need people that kind of like that understand like, you know, that kind of like know my skill set and stuff. Right. Those are the people, you know what I mean? These teachers are your kind of golden ticket to that. You know what I mean? So not saying hit me up now. Now it's going to be suspicious. Right. But, but you know, it is something where it's like, you know, I'm serious. I don't know for everybody else, for other teachers and stuff, but I am serious when I say that. Like, hit me up, because there's little things that can happen where it's like, you know, maybe you get a job or something, or you get like interviewed for whatever, and you know, you have to find like I don't know, like some sort of like contract, right? I had a student hit me up for about contract stuff a little while back. I was like, yeah, I'll send you a contract that I got. You know what I mean? I'll send you the exact one. Versus like, I don't know, potentially messing up like a relationship with a client, or looking kind of amateur. You know what I mean? It I don't know. It does a lot, you know. So this is like the most boring shit ever, but it is what it is, guys. This is this be the concept. All right, guys. So we're 8 o'clock right now, or my time, 8 o'clock. We're about an hour and 5 minutes into this, right? So I wanted to talk about some stuff that I guess I see a lot, especially in students, and I will say that it's like detrimental to a lot of people's like careers, right? And I just want to talk about it because it's something where it's like a lot of people don't really quite know what it means to like be a concept artist. You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like with like school and stuff, it's very I don't want to say misleading, but it's not very representative of what work is actually like. Like, for example, like whenever I'm teaching a class, right? I kind of guide you through the assignments, and we do a thing where, you know, it's just, you know, it's like, hey, come up with an idea, and then you supply it, kind of thing, right? But it's not very like accurate to way, I guess, a studio is actually run. You know what I mean? Like, for example, whenever I'm at work, actually, let's dial this back. Whenever I'm in school, right? It's always like, make a concept, you're right? Design a thing. It's like, hey, here's a story, design something for it. You know what I mean? And then they kind of give you the crit, and this and that, right? And like, hey, which one do you like? You know what I mean? Like, what's this thing? Like, what's that? You know what I mean? Like, it's always like that. And it's not, I would say, as a concept artist, that's not very accurate to what a production really is. Because there's a lot of stuff that I've like learned, I guess, in a studio setting that I'm like, I didn't even know that we did that. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many like little things where I'm like, you know, like there's a lot of like assets and stuff we need to build, or even just knowing how to export files correctly. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that stuff. And so like, I wanted to talk about some of the major skills you would need as an entry level artist, because I think there's this idea where, you know, we see these artists, we see a lot of like paintings, right? And the reason I'm doing this prop design, because this is what we do at work. This is like, I mean, no shit. Like, this is this is like one of the closest representations of what my day at work looks like sometimes, where I'm like, I'm just designing a fucking camera. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just designing like just a small little thing, right? Because they're like, oh yeah, it's gonna be the keyframe. We're gonna do color keys. We're gonna do the splash art. You know what I mean? It's like, you will never touch that your first 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, I don't say never, but like generally speaking, you probably won't be doing that. You know what you will be doing though? Fucking turnarounds. You ever do a turnaround of like a fucking coin? You know, like a normal quarter. You know what I mean? Like, they're gonna give you something. They're gonna be like, hey, there's a scene where the character flips a coin and we need that coin designed out. And you're like, oh, is it like a special like coin? It's like, no, it's a quarter, because they're using USD. You know what I mean? Like, it's just normal George Washington quarter, and we need a turnaround for that, because when we outsource it to the studio, we don't trust that they're gonna get it right. And you're like, what? You know what I mean? Like, just make the quarter. You know what I mean? And you're like, sure. You know what I mean? Or it's like, hey, can you give us a turnaround of these glasses? You know what I mean? And like, we're trained in school to be like, here, paint super loose, gestural, you know, like, make everything so energetic and nice. And then it's like, you go into a studio and they're like, hey, can you design the button on this guy's shirt? You know, we just need it for the character designer. We just need this for modeling purposes or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that the other stuff doesn't exist, but just understanding that whenever you work somewhere, you know, even if they hire, like, they're gonna look at your portfolio sometimes, right? And they'll be like, wow, it's so energetic, it's so beautiful, it's so colorful, there's so much soul in all of these things. You know what I mean? And then when you get to the studio, they're like, hey, can you do a turnaround for this thing? And they're like, oh, but I thought you liked it for this colorful stuff, the loose stuff. And they're like, yeah, but we have a senior for that. You know, where do you have Ryan Lang working on this thing? Where do you have, Zach Retz? Where do you have whoever? You know what I mean? Like the senior level artists, the super mega stars. You know, where do you have Yun Ling on the project? He's doing the color keys. But can you do the wooden box? You know what I mean? And it's funny because oftentimes that skill is not actually developed. You know what I mean? Because we're so used to being like, hey, do the cool centipede monster, you know, covering up the landscape, and it's like super loose and it's like interpretive. You know what I mean? It's like, it's art. You know what I'm saying? But in reality, whenever you get hired, it's a lot of, hey, we need a turnaround for a thing. Can you just do that real quick? You know, our normal artist isn't here to do it, or, you know, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's such a minor thing, and you would think that it's just like I'm way too overqualified to do this. You know what I mean? But in reality, you do what they need you to do. So, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's a very misleading idea that, you know, when we go and do concepts for work, you know, it's a lot of like beautiful keyframes, you know, epic 3D renders, you know, all these things. It's like, oh, the whole palace, the whole keyframe. And I'm like, when you get to the studio, generally speaking, this is for us, for the normies out there. You know what I mean? Like for the non-legendary student artists. You know what I mean? The people that like are actually like normal level, like an entry level artist, right? It's always like, you're going to be doing a turnaround. You're going to be doing the normal ass thing, because that's what we need you to do, you know? And it's a skill, you know? And so whenever I get this question a lot of like, hey, what's, you know, I want to be a concept artist, and I want to kind of develop the skills that are necessary for me to kind of, you know, get the job, right? So what do I need? And it's funny because a lot of times, because I've seen advice where it's like, oh yeah, you know, be super colorful, be super loose, this and that. I'm like, learn how to paint really well and learn how to follow directions. It doesn't get much crazier than that. If you want a job immediately, right? It's like, that's like I don't want to say like most of the job, like following directions is like, it's funny because it sounds so basic, but it really is. It really is that, because like whenever we, kind of ranty right now, but whenever we, go, what was I going to say? Whenever we go work at a studio, right? It's like, it's very deceiving, right? It's like okay, let's start at school, right? Whenever it's at school, it's like, hey, especially like now, like especially like this assignment I'm doing, like this is like quote unquote school, right? It's always like, hey, you know, really think through this story, really design this thing, really make sure that it's, you know, has a plot, or, you know, really understand the full. I say this all the time, you know what I mean? At work, it's like, oh yeah, the writers figured it all out. The director wants this. You know, it's a bunch of like, you know, other stuff that like they're telling you very specific things. They're like, hey, we want this lighting, this exact direction, this exact camera. Use somebody else's sketch. These are props from somebody else, and you put it all together. You know what I mean? And you're like, but you know, I design. I'm a concept artist. I'm supposed to, you know, I do from scratch, right? Like, no. Almost never, you know. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, like, but for an entry level job, they probably won't ask you to do that. You know what I mean? Because they have their artists, they have high level artists to kind of figure those things out, and it's so like, it feels very odd to kind of be. There it is. It feels very like, I don't know. It's like we're taught in school to be like this original butterfly of an artist. But in reality, it really is like, hey, all you got to do is just do what the art director kind of tells you to do. And it's funny, and I say that because it sounds hilarious, where it's like, oh, that's easy. Like, kind of. You know what I mean? It's kind of easy. You'd be very surprised how not easy it is to follow directions for some individuals. You know what I mean? Like in class, for example, I'll be like, oh, hey, do this, do these amount of thumbnails, do these things. You know what I mean? Like, it's very, very normal things that you would ask of a student, right? And then I'll get an assignment back, and it's like nothing like that, you know? And they're like, oh, but I thought this would be cool. And it's like, you know, I don't want to say, you know, you could do whatever you want. It's the class that you paid for, right? But at the end of the day, you got to remember, this is a job interview. This is me looking at your skill set and kind of, you know, judging like, hey, can you do what I asked you to do? And if you didn't do it for the homework assignment, like, what are the chances that you'd do it for work? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that you wouldn't, because there's money on the line at that point. But it doesn't really reflect that grade on you if you don't. You know what I mean? And it sounds so basic, but like following directions is one of the best things you can do to make sure that you get a job, you know? It's just so like, it's the most basics of skills, but this really, like, literally, like, I had a conversation with one of my, one of my teammates before, and we're like, oh yeah, what kind of artists are we looking for this? You know, there's like just somebody to follow directions. Like, we have the mood board, we have the sketches, we have everything that we need. All you got to do is just piece it all together, you know, and just don't fuck it up. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds funny, but it really is like that. Cause like, I think as artists, we're kind of taught to, I guess, design everything as like brand new as we can. You know what I mean? We're trying to make it the most original idea that we can bring to the table, you know? But at the end of the day, it really is like, usually there's other people in the pipeline. You can kind of add things. You can add like 10%, add 20%. But you can't just change story points. You can't just redesign props because somebody else designed it already. And you really have to understand this, like, you know, there's a whole production here, and there's teams of people doing stuff to kind of make sure that this project kind of works out. And, you know, oftentimes it really does come down to, hey, they need this, so just do it. You know what I mean? How many questions in here? You guys are going crazy in the chat.
Sorry, it's mostly me, Rachel, and Shannon and Emma, like literally just spamming. So sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I was just seeing if there's any questions. If there's any questions, resend it and I'll answer it. But but yeah, you know, it's funny. Like I think as artists, as concept artists, right? We I don't know. We always kind of like think like one of the major skills that I guess we need, right, is like drawing and painting, which is true to a degree, right? It's like the idea of like, you know, we have, I guess, there's a certain skill set that we need, right, for sure, as concept artists, right? Because whenever we're designing, right, there has to be, you've got to be able to draw and paint, you know, normally, right? Like you have to at least be able to represent the thing that people need from you, right? That's standard. That makes sense. But I think like we put so much emphasis on it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a lot of like, hey, you know, we really need to, you know, you need to know every 3D modeling program. You need to know every matte painting technique. And there's a lot of this stuff where it's like, you know, I guess, I don't know. I guess it's technically, you should probably know some of these things. Like, you know, I'm doing 3D right now, and that's very, I would say, standard for kind of like what, I guess what would be, what I would kind of do in a normal job setting, right? But it's like, it really is like, I guess the technique behind it, it really almost doesn't matter. Because you see like some art of books, or you'll see like some sketches from artists where they're like, oh yeah, this is a concept we did for the thing. And you see how loose half of these concepts are. Because, you know, the whole point is, all we need to do is communicate the idea. As long as it makes sense, especially because we as concept artists aren't usually the last rung on the ladder. You know what I mean? Like, because, you know, there's always like a 3D team with us. There's always, you know, there's always like another kind of, I guess, round of people that, you know, make it, like modelers, you know, animators, effects, all that, right? And so whenever we're designing, there's always this like, I guess, or like looking for jobs and stuff, there's always this idea of like, oh hey, I need to have the highest quality in the world, right? And it's like, I mean, you have to have a certain level. You have to have I guess a certain skill set that, yeah, you got to get like kind of there. But in reality, all you really got to do is be able to communicate the idea. As long as you can do that, you're set. You know what I mean? It's like, as long as you can communicate whatever needs to be said about the thing. You know what I mean? Oops, why is that so big? Hold up. It's because I'm freaking... Okay, hold up. Let's sit that way. There we go. Why can I not see it? Hold up. Trying to like, because this thing is so big, or the camera is so small, it's like a normal, there it is. Because it's like a normal size, I'm like trying to make this cup feel like it's actually like bending out. There you go. That's what we wanted. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go. But yeah, so I just want to talk about some of those things. You know, really nothing like crazy. I'm kind of like complaining. I don't say complaining, but I am kind of ranting just a little bit. But it's just something where like, you know, I see this a lot where it's like, hey, you know, I'm trying to be the most loose artist that I can be. I'm trying to, you know, make sure that every painting I do is super gestural and like, you know, has all these like loose things to it, right? But the reality is like, as a junior artist, really what we're looking for is, can you paint well, right? Can you clean up things and can you do turnarounds? You know what I mean? And it's like, it's really that simple. And if you get really good at those things, right, regardless of what program you do to whatever program you use, right, as long as you know, I guess are competent in at least something, and you can represent the idea in a you know, halfway decent manner, you'll probably be okay, you know, because there's so much focus on it. I feel like it's almost like, I don't want to say like detrimental, but it really isn't like the end all be all, right? Like, because I've had people who are like, oh, do you know 3D? I'm like, yeah, I know a little bit of it. I'm like, perfect. That's really all we need. You know what I mean? Because I think it's funny because especially like I'm doing modeling right now, right? And like if a real modeler saw this, I don't know, they might like riot or something. You know, they might fucking kill me. I don't know. But like, because you know, I hand this off to a modeler and they'll clean it up. But that's the whole idea. You know, the whole idea is there's a whole modeling team there. Why are you so focused on like learning how to be like the best modelers in the world, right? It's like, oops. It's like, it's so, I don't know. It's so like, the whole idea is you just have to be good enough to convey the idea. You know, there's some things that you got to know for sure, but if you can't communicate on a, I guess a visual level, right? Yeah, you gotta fix some of those issues. But if you like know how to draw and paint, if you know like just basic skills, right, you can almost get a job anywhere. You know, you gotta imagine like some of these artists, like I don't say that, you know, like some of these high level artists like Jamie Jones, Craig Mullins, they don't really use 3D that much. They might use it from time to time for sure, but the end product isn't like a perfect render. It's like, do they have trouble finding work? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something where it's like, yes, it is important. It is something that is necessary, but I think people like kind of lose track of like what really is our job, you know, what really is, because you can have the best render in the world, but if you can't figure out what the client wants in terms of a design, right? I mean, it's useless. You know what I mean? Meecha says, Kenny, was there a time you couldn't figure out a design or just feel like what you output feels generic? Dude, all the time, bro. All the time. I'm feeling that right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something where it's like, you know, you really, I guess, for me, I don't, you always kind of feel that way, you know what I mean? But really, the whole point is, you know, as long as you're kind of hitting the right notes, as long as you're like kind of being inspired by the right things, or you're kind of like, I guess, pulling from the right resources, generally speaking, you'll probably be okay. You know what I mean? Like you'll probably be at least kind of close, because the whole point for a concept artist, right, is that, you know, we help kind of facilitate a lot of the ideas. We kind of like push the direction, but our ideas don't always actually necessarily need to be used, you know, because I've been on teams where they're like, well, that idea didn't quite work. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh shit, this okay? They're like, yeah, but it was perfect. You're like, what? And it's funny because, you know, whenever we're working, you know, I guess the whole idea is, you know, you want to nail the idea. You want to be like, oh, I got this. I figured it out, and you know, it's 100% my idea. In reality, it's usually a massive team effort. Like 90% of the time, it's usually like, you know, you kind of do a lot of like the trailblazing where it's like, oh yeah, this is the kind of camera that we want. But then, you know, another artist will jump in and kind of help out, or, you know, a modeler will come in and they change some things for sure, you know, or even the art director will kind of make some adjustments before sending it off or whatever. And as your job really is just to kind of kickstart a lot of the ideas, you know what I mean? It's just to kind of push things just, you know, a little bit further. And if you can do that, you know, you're probably in a pretty good position, right? If you can inspire the designs and stuff for the team, if you can kind of assist in a lot of those efforts, right? Because yeah, you know, your design is hopefully going to be driving a lot of the kind of main inspirations that are happening. But at the end of the day, you're not the only person on the team. And I think we as artists really need to understand, like, you know, you're part of the system. You know what I mean? the gears and you're going to help out to the best of your ability. And if the idea evolves, it evolves, and that's actually hopefully what happens. Yeah, because I've had I've done concepts where like they're like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool, but it's like then they hand it off to they hand it off to a modeler or whatever, and then they take it like 10-20% further. You know what I mean? Like I took it like 70 or 60%, but they there's the rest of the team kind of goes in and like helps out and does things, and it really does kind of go a long way to just understand that you don't have to be 100% of the idea. Sometimes I guess they expect that of you, but that's really not how most teams work. They're kind of just you're inspiring things, right? Because there's times where like I'll hop on before the script's even like ready, right? Where they're like, oh, we don't really know what we need yet. You're like, okay, cool. And then I'll do something, and then the team will be like, oh, that's pretty cool. We kind of added some things like into the script based off of what you showed, and then I from that kind of evolve my idea, and it's this whole like back and forth. I think it's so like it's really cool to be a part of that. I really do think it's like it's interesting because so many people will I guess expect that it's 100% our idea. Like the concept artist figured it out. No, generally, like we just had maybe the first crack at it, or maybe not even first, to be honest. Nice. Let's see. So what I'm doing here is I have this camera, right? And there's like some things that I'm like trying to make better. I'm making things more complicated. I took actually this whole design, right? This like little thing in the ring, and I kind of pulled it from that Canon Hansa that we had. Let me show you. Boom. Oh wait, is it this one? No, it's this one. Nope. Yeah, here you go. There's like on that like next it says like MTR. There's like that hole there, and I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool. I need to make it bigger now. Now that I'm actually looking at it, but like, it's cool because like, I think as a designer, especially like as somebody that like teaches classes and stuff, it's so I guess like doing the studies and stuff gets skipped. And like, it sounds like funny where it's like, oh yeah, it's just a study. Who cares? You know what I mean? It's like, it's just a painting. It's just like a small little thing. And like, I guess, I don't know. I just feel like doing that study is everything. You know what I mean? Like it's everything, dude. Whenever you're designing for concepts, right? Try to do a study, and I'll show you how all of this kind of comes back into play a little bit later next week, right? Just to kind of show you like what all this means, right? But it really is like, understanding that these studies go a long way, right? Just understanding how little things are built, understanding how the mechanics behind things. Like if you own the camera, right, or if you look at it a lot, or you understand like what all these pieces do, and I'm linking it back to like real life things that I've experienced, that's what really kind of makes concepts kind of tick. You know what I mean? Like it's such a funny thing, but I find like doing studies really goes a long way, and that's why like I spent like 2 weeks. I spent like a whole week of this topic, just making doing a study, just doing a painting. You know what I mean? It sounds funny, where it's like, oh yeah, why would you just do the painting? You know what I mean? Why would you like start and do a painting that essentially is not being paid for in any sort of way? You're kind of, I don't want to say wasting company time, but you know what I mean? It's not like exactly the most useful thing in the world. But that's because it kind of feeds your brain, and if you're ever thinking like, oh, I don't have a good form language library, that's how you get it. You know what I mean? That's how we get there. Michelle says, is there a good reference library to learn turnarounds? I can't find good ones on the internet. I mean, I don't know if there's a library to learn turnarounds, right? Like, you know, what I would do is find like art of books, right? And you're like, okay, cool. There's the art of whatever, right? And you look at the art book and say, okay, cool. What is, you know, they did a turnaround in here. What did they do, right? Because especially if you're a character designer, like doing a turnaround of a thing, right? Or even a prop, and you're trying to find like, you know, the lines and stuff, and trying to make everything, I guess, evenly distributed and accurate, right? Because the whole point of a turnaround, you have to understand, is that somebody has to take this and do something with it, right? They have to take this and build the thing, right? And so whenever I'm doing the turnarounds, right, what I'm really understanding here is I have to create something that somebody can follow. You know what I mean? Like, that's really all it is. But you have to be accurate with it, because a lot of people don't take it seriously, you know, and it sounds weird. Because I've taught, like, for example, like an ENT1 class, and I'm like, oh, do a turnaround, and they kind of just like do it, and they're like, oh, yeah, I got the turnaround, you know. It's like, yeah, but that turnaround's trash. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't look good. It's not a good representation of what a turnaround could be, because nothing is accurate. And they kind of put like the lines on the back because it's like, oh, that's what we need, right? Like the lines are there. You know what I mean? But in reality, it's like some turnarounds aren't even supposed to match. You know, if you ever work in like 2D animation specifically, like animation that's, like, generally speaking, like flatter. They do it sometimes in 3D, not as much, but in 2D animation, they'll do turnarounds that aren't accurate, right? They're actually not supposed to be accurate, where, like, you know, the hair is a certain shape from the front, and when you turn it to the side, they kind of alter the shape, and it's like, it looks better that way than it actually does in the real turnaround. You know what I'm saying? And so, there's little things like that you really have to understand. It's, you know, study it and figure out like what the purpose is. Talk to people. You know what I mean? Sick. So what I want to do is I'm creating this box, right? This is a little robot. And then I have these things here, these circles, and I kind of wanted to feel like shoulders. And I'm going to put the camera straps right here. I don't know if I can do that in 3D. I'm not that good. Maybe somebody's better at like that, creating that like organic looking like strap essentially. But it's gonna be coming out of here. I'll probably do it in 2D just so it's easier. And then those arms are gonna come out, and then it's going to like kind of act as hands. And it's gonna feel like this thing is like sitting on top, and then I have this screen in the back. So all of this down here at the bottom is still a traditional camera, it's still a film camera, but all the processing kind of happens up here, and it feels like there's like a partner. If you've ever seen like Gundam, there's this thing called a Haro, right? And he kind of like sits inside the cockpit, kind of like R2D2, right? He like sits inside, he kind of operates the thing. That's what I want, right? And that's kind of what I'm looking for. It feels a little more like tactile, right? Because that's the whole point of like a lot of the stuff I'm doing, where whenever I'm designing, it's a very tactile experience. Because that's what a lot of like the traditional like camera stuff really is. You know what I'm saying? So. Dude, let's go, man. Let's start finding some other stuff. So like, it's fun because like, as I'm doing this, right, we're just kind of like diving just a little bit further. I'm going to replace this lens because I don't really like where it's at right now. But it's just slowly getting better, you know? And every little piece, like as you zoom in and start handling things, because before this camera was like an amalgamation of the other camera, right? You can even kind of see it when I put it in this angle, right? It's like, you can kind of see the other camera involved there. And, because that's kind of what it was. I just need the box. But now it's like we're designing something that actually, kind of gets close. You know what I mean? I'm going to do the rest, not the rest right now, but like I'm going to, add more details and stuff in the paint, just so we can kind of understand like how far I would take that. We'll do that in the rendering section. But, generally speaking, this is how I would operate. It's really not flashy. It's kind of boring, to be completely honest. But in reality, this is what we need. You know, I think a lot of people really underestimate what being a concept artist and really understanding how to design props. In the in the private streams. So for those that don't know, there's a Livestream Plus that we do feedback on, and it's been going great. I really do feel like a lot of the work there looks pretty sick. But yeah, a lot of it's like really showing you how much thought, right, really goes into you know, like this process, because like there's a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, it's just a thing, it's just a whatever. But it's like when you look at this, it's actually something. You know what I mean? It is a whole I guess there's a whole system behind, you know, the design of this. There's a personality, there's a use, there's a history, and you know I'm gonna get there in a bit once we kind of start diving deeper. But like trying to find that personality, trying to find that history, that design, hit these design cues. That's what you're looking for. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to like make this feel like it's just some attachment that kind of like hopped on almost. He's like kind of plopped in, and he can maybe hop from like one camera to the next, right? Like, let's say like he's, you know, you wanted to use this camera, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, let's use the other camera. So he hops off, and he's like on to something else essentially. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. And then now I'm really just trying to like add in a lot of these other cues to make sure that, you know, we have the consistency that we're looking for, you know. Julius says, hey, Kenny, at what point do you consider a person a senior role? So I guess generally speaking, right, whenever we are thinking about our roles, right, as like junior, mid-level, senior, principal, right, art director, just as a, I guess, for a lot of people in the beginning, it's a lot of like, you know, the better I paint, the more senior I'm going to be, right? You know, because like that was my first thought. You know, maybe I'm just dumb, who knows? But I think for me, a lot of it was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, you know, I'm a senior if I can paint really well, right? It's not, and that's not really the case. You're a senior because you can think very well, right? You understand how to design, like a lot of those cues that we hit, that I was talking about earlier, right? With the web, the design web, where it's like I'm trying to hit a bunch of different directions, right? That's what actually makes you a better senior. Yeah, there's a quality bar that you need to hit, absolutely, right? Just because that's our job, right? But there's a lot of like things that seniors do that really aren't quality driven, it's thought driven. You know what I mean? Like if you can design really well, if you can create a really strong, I guess, footprint on the project, right? It usually comes from your ability to think, really not your ability to paint, because your ability to paint is fine. It is something that is useful, but it's not the thing that's going to carry you to that finish line. You know what I mean? It's not going to be the thing that truly makes you somebody that is worth paying that much. Because if you're really good at painting, congratulations, you're okay. You know what I mean? Like it's fine that you're here. You know what I mean? Because that's the bare minimum. Everybody that comes into a job, right? You have to be good at painting. That's the first priority. It's learn how to paint, learn how to communicate is really what you're doing. You know, you're using pixels on a canvas in a program to just communicate ideas, right? So the next part is, well, what makes you better than the next artist? What makes you better than somebody else? And it's your ability to think. You know, can you communicate an idea effectively within the parameters of what we're asking you to communicate? You know what I mean? And so a senior artist is not just somebody that can do that, but it's somebody that can do that and carry others, you know, because like, for example, a junior artist, you come in, I'm expecting for myself to do 70, like as a leader, as an art director, as a whoever, I'm expecting to do about 70% of the workload, right? And 30% is what the junior is going to should be able to handle. And that usually means, you know, immense amounts of art direction, and then you paint. So I like I build it out for you. I show you the sketch, I give you the color key, I show you the render quality. You know, the only thing I didn't do was paint it myself. That's kind of really what a junior should be expected to do. That and turnarounds, right? a mid-level artist can handle about 70% of what they're expected to do. So, you know, you can handle most of it, and I'll give you like a looser prompt, maybe a little bit less information, and then, you know, that mid-level artist can take it from there, right? I give you the general art direction, I give you like some of the style cues, maybe some of the color palettes, but you know, you handle the rest, 70%. And then a senior level artist should be able to handle 100%, where it's like I literally just gave you a prompt, like just some words on a page, because oftentimes it's like, oh hey, yeah, we need a senior artist to kind of handle this. Cool. And they go, what do you need? And they're like, well, we're kind of thinking something like this, but we really don't know. And then senior artist goes, cool, yeah, I figured it out. You know what I mean? Like, well, they kind of like go from there, and they make it happen essentially. That's what a senior artist, generally speaking, is able to do. They can take, you know, bare bones ideas and kind of make it happen. Or if there's like an emergency, which there always is, it's always like, oh yeah, you know, they, you know, where there's something wrong, you know, the vendor dropped the ball, whatever, right? And it's like, hey, can you handle this real quick, you know? And it's like no doubt that this thing's gonna get done. You know what I mean? So that's really what a senior is able to do. They're able to like do 100% of the work and help somebody else. Maybe like the junior needs a little bit of help rendering, or needs a little bit of help in like art direction, or kind of staying on task, right? So it's a lot of thinking. Cool. This thing's looking sick, dude. All right, we're gonna spend the next however long remaking this lens. Great questions, by the way. These are good. I think, like, you know, little things like this really do go a long way. I feel like these types of questions, like, you can't really, like, I don't know, you can't really find this anywhere, and you kind of have to learn it. You know what I mean? And it's such a I don't know, it's such a hard thing to like figure out, especially like when you're like on the job. You know what I mean? So let's see, let's do this. I want this to be more of a telephoto lens, so I'm gonna make this like a bit longer and like try to make it kind of fit that more telephoto idea. You know what I mean? Bro, just stretch it out. That's all you gotta do, man. That's it.
How to turn a 30mm into 55mm in an instant.
There you go, dude. That's like, bro, that's how we do it. That's how we do it here, man. And then you just bring the lens back, and you're like, dude, freaking gangster. Hold up. Let's do this right, though. Let's do this not so ghetto.
Also, the overall silhouette looks like a chainsaw.
Is it
like
really?
A chainsaw camera.
I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see what you're saying, man.
Just. Yeah. It looks like a chainsaw without a handle.
Oh, but there is a handle, dude. This is that one right there. There you go.
Just crank it up, and then the whole lens turns into like a, what is that called? A turbine, jet turbine.
Oh, one fun fact. Have you ever seen animal photography, or just general photography for like creatures and stuff like that, right? If you ever look at the lenses, they tend to be white. They tend to be like super light. Like if you look at it's like telephoto lens. Telephoto lens. So there is some dark lenses for sure, like the first one we're looking at here, right? But the whole top row, all the good ones, all white, right? But like, and then if you look at any other camera lens, it's always black. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of white lenses, and it's cool because the reason it's like that is because dark camera lenses retain a lot of heat. So, for example, whenever we're like for this lens, if it was completely black, right, and they're outside doing photography, this lens captures a lot of heat because it's darker, right? It's just black attracts heat, right? And so whenever we're doing this, like this design, right, you really got to kind of know these things, you know? It's like little things like that really do go a long way. I feel like this, like just if you're an artist, if you're somebody that likes to, you know, design or wants to be a concept artist, you kind of just have to know stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds weird, but it's like you kind of just have to be interested in learning, because if you don't, generally speaking, you know, it's just so difficult to like actually work in this job. You know what I mean? Like, it's so like, because we as concept artists, we're just, you know, we'll design stuff like this all the time, where it's like, oh, hey, here's a, you know, we have a design for a thing, you know, whatever, right? Whatever it is. And, you know, like, there's the people that are like contracting us, right? They're always like fans of whatever, you know. It's always like, you know, it's always like, hey, you know, we're really into military stuff, you know what I mean? So hey, we're making a Call of Duty game, or, you know, whatever, right? And, you know, whenever you design, you're gonna like have to design a gun or something. And if you don't know these things, it really makes things a lot harder. You know, it really does. Like, it really does go a long way to kind of just know these things, because if you know it, then like these little nuances you can get right on, like, almost, I don't want to say the first try, but generally speaking, it's a lot easier to kind of like get all that accurate. You know what I mean? But if you kind of miss it, you're like, you know, it's like, it doesn't really quite look right. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel right, because a lot of these things, a lot of these people, like whenever they're designing, you know, it's hobbies that they enjoy. And that's why, like, whenever I'm saying, you know, if you have a hobby, like, try to incorporate it, or have a hobby and incorporate it in some sort of way, because, you know, these little nuances, you know, that the world doesn't know, right? Like, just most general people don't really quite understand these ideas, you know. But you, as somebody that's interested in the topic, it goes a long way. And so for me, whenever I'm designing, I really do try to, like, at least do some research, kind of like be somebody that likes to deep dive into a topic, because if you don't like learning, right, you're not gonna have a good time as a concept artist. You know, it's just not fun. Because if you don't care about the thing that you're designing, it shows. You know what I mean? It's like the enthusiasm for the thing is just not there, you know? And it really does, I feel like, kind of hinder a lot of things, you know? So definitely, like, try to care. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but, you know, the whole point is, you know, if you have hobbies, if you're somebody that enjoys things, it really does go a long way, you know? There you go. Look at that. Bro, pow. Oh, let's see what an actual lens looks like. We just do like random like cut lines and separations in there, you know, just to make it all sick looking, right? So
In sci-fi.
yeah, man. I mean, you know, if you're not doing cut lines, what are you doing, right? Like, what's your purpose if you're not doing cut lines?
It's like, where you at?
Something that I've been diving into lately. I've been wanting to increase my sci-fi understanding. So I've been watching like some old sci-fi animes. I guess not even that old, but I finished Evangelion. Like, I started when I was sick. I was like, all right, I got to do something, and I have to like, I watched it as a kid, and like, I like didn't, you know, it was that classic thing of like, you don't really know what you're watching. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, it's big robot fight, great. You know, I love that. It's, for those that haven't seen it, it's not. It's way deeper than that. It's there's like religious undertones. There's all sorts of stuff, depression, all that. But anyway, I was like watching a lot of that, and then I was like trying to get better at you know, just understanding kind of like what I'm looking at. And then I started watching like Cowboy Bebop as well. I watched that as a kid as well, but you know, I'm trying to watch it as an adult, just as I'm older, and like, it's cool because I watch a lot of like, you know, because there's a lot of sci-fi out there that sucks. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of like, just generic ass stuff where it's like it's just the most. It's like, you know, it's like that square with like the cut off corner. You know what I mean? Like that's it. You know, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of guilty of that right now. Look at that. That's it right there, right? But there's a lot of that, right? And like whenever we are designing, it always kind of ends up there sometimes. You know, it's like it just doesn't look good. It's just so like, I don't know. It's just like technically speaking, you're like, oh yeah, what's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it. Everything looks okay, but it's like, you know, it's just boring. You don't really get much reaction out of it. And I was watching a lot of Cowboy Bebop, and like looking at it, it's cool because this world, this universe, right, is so like there's so much culture involved. Because when they go to a place, right, it's like it looks like Mexico, but then like way in the future. It looks like Earth way in the future. You know, it looks like China way in the future. It looks like Vegas way in the future. And like all these little nuances are so cool because like it's like, you know, it's these things that we're very familiar with, but then they just skin it with sci-fi, and like they put like, you know, it's a whole culture, like the way everything's laid out, all of it. It just it works so much better. And I think you know, really like as designers, really understanding that, understanding like what it takes to actually design something with meaning. Because I think with the fantasy, right, it's super easy to do that. Where, because with fantasy, it's kind of built in. You know what I mean? Like it's always like, you know, there's the idea is, oh, it's Viking, but like, you know, but pushed. Cool. You know, that's really easy. Generally speaking, we kind of know what that looks like. You know, like, you know, to kind of inherently just add that culture in yourself. You know what I mean? But then you get into like, you know, like sci-fi. It's like, oh yeah, it's a robot, it's a building, it's a whatever. But we don't think like it's like a Chinese building. It's like it's like an LA building. It's like, you know, it's we don't think about a lot of these little nuances that really do, I guess kind of give us that variety, give us that like that history, that culture that like fantasy just inherently already has. You know what I mean? And I think like seeing a lot of that, it really does. I don't know. It inspires me to like really design just like better. You know? And like if you're ever like wondering like why your sci-fi kind of sucks, or like, you know, why something doesn't really look that good, you know, ask yourself like, is there any culture here? Is there any like, you know, is there any I don't know. Is there like any meaning here? Is there anything that people can like recognize? You know what I mean? But sorry, that's just me ranting. But I've been wanting to like design a bunch of ships. I'm trying to like get through. Not gonna lie, like I'm trying to like get through a lot of like my assignments and stuff right now for like work and all that, just so I can like just do some like fan art. You know what I mean? I'm just like, dude, I just want to like paint fan art, to be honest. Sick. Look at those proportions, dog. Let's go. Gotta be able to grip it. And there you go. Right? Look at that lens. And I'll put some like markings and stuff on it. But like, dude. I even got the glass on there? Bro, freaking sick. So like, I'm just imagining like, there's this strap. There's just like freaking, oh dude, where'd it go? There it is. I'm just imagining like, there's this, I don't know, this like almost robotic kind of like partner type creature thing. And like, I really want to make sure that this, this thing, I don't know, it feels like it's sitting on there. You know what I mean? It's like docked. You know what I'm saying? But anyway. Boom. Maybe his eyes should be like white or something. This guy's, he's giving me Baymax vibes. But Baymax is cool, right? He's cool. He's dope. There you go. Let's try that. That's shiny. Maybe we should glow. Dude, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. Let's glow. I won't do that again, I promise. Nah, I'll probably do it again. Let's see. Emissions? Where's it at? They changed the whole layout of me. There it is. Strength. There you go. Go bluish. Turn that off. There you go. All right, check that out. So there's a lot of like stuff I'm still gonna do to it. Just like usual, right? We're gonna take this design and push it a bit further. This coming week, I'm really gonna make sure that I'm gonna kind of like, I guess, get everything I want to do in the model done, and then I'll kind of show you where I go. And then from here, it's just material painting and, you know, presenting, right? And I think I'll talk about more of that next week on like how I plan on presenting this. And just as a keynote, I just want everyone to know, I'm not presenting it like this. You know, just like, here, look, it's 3/4. You know what I mean? We're not doing that. That's not how we present things. So I'll show you next week on what that is. We'll render it, make it look nice. But yeah, you know, we're basically, you know, almost there. It's funny because a lot of the stuff, you know, whenever I started designing it, right, it was a lot of like basic shapes that we kind of repeated over and over again. And then there's like little nuances that we kind of have in terms of like those Pokeball ideas. And I'll push that a lot further in this coming week. But it's like just trying to find something that resonates with the audience, the usage, and then, you know, starting to hit cues that are like, oh yeah, you know, that makes sense why that's like that, you know what I mean? And then trying to hit a certain kind of feeling. Because I was kind of messing, like in my mind, I was kind of messing with a lot of ideas of, you know, how do I make this, like what kind of like animated movement is this gonna have? And I think like, you know, there was the Monster House idea. I was like, that doesn't really feel right to me. You know what I mean? Because that's not the kind of universe that I'm already kind of building, right? With like the car and all that stuff. There's a very tactileness that this world kind of has. You know, the reason why I picked a lot of like the references that I did with the vintage camera and the mechanical wind sculpture, right? As well as that cannon, that old cannon, right? It feels very tactile, right? And I don't want the world to kind of deviate from that because, you know, that's not a language that we already have. And this is where that reference really does come into play, where when you're designing, there's a certain vibe, there's a certain feeling that you're already kind of addressing, that you're already kind of doing. And you want to really make sure that whenever you design something else in that world, it feels roughly similar, right? Because this piece right here should kind of start feeling like it belongs on that car. The older camera stuff, right? That's gonna feel old. You know, I'm gonna kind of make that look a little more vintage or whatever. But this top part, especially this top part, it's going to start feeling like that vehicle that we had from before. Or it should start feeling like that vehicle because that's the kind of world that it's already in. You know what I mean? So we'll see how this goes. You know, hopefully this is you know, interesting and this is fun. A couple of announcements before we kind of finish off for the night. Next month, right? We did a vote on what the topic is going to be for our next topic this month, right? We did prop design. Next month, we're going to be doing color keys. So basically, I'm going to kind of walk you through how we do color keys in a professional way and like kind of what are the main topics that you want to understand when you do it. So if you want to be part of that, you know, in the next coming weeks, not this, you don't have to sign up this week. I mean, you can if you want. But in the coming weeks, probably starting next week, right? You can probably start signing up, and then we'll get ready for that in February. So it's gonna be 4 weeks. We're gonna be covering a bunch of different topics. I'll announce it in a more formal way next week. But for those of you that kind of stayed to the end, you kind of get to know a little bit early in terms of like what we're gonna do. So if you have a project that you're kind of already working on, right? That's perfect. If you don't have a project, what we're probably gonna do is like, you know, find a movie script or find, you know, some sort of story or something, a snippet of a thing. And we're going to be designing like 5 or 6 color keys for that and kind of show you how they all link together. So if you're interested in that, you know, I'd love to have you sign up for the Livestream Plus in the Discord. Go to the Discord shop. Oh, and something I kind of found out for those that signed up, I guess, are signing up for the Livestream Plus. In the Discord, if you're on a computer, on a desktop, it's $9.99. If you sign up on your phone, it's like $13.99 or something like that. The reason for that is because of the App Store fees. So it's an in-app purchase. It doesn't go to me. So please sign up on desktop if you can. It is cheaper that way. I mean, you know, unless you're really into supporting Apple or Samsung, so, or Apple or Android. But yeah, that's what that's about. It's not like trying to be devious or anything. It's just the App Store fees that they have tacked on. So Discord has to kind of accommodate for that. So just so you know, please sign up in the web browser or on a desktop or something. That is the better way to do it. But you know, however you do it, hopefully see you next month. So just as a reminder, we're doing color keys, and it's gonna be a good time. So if you're not joining, then you know, what are you doing, right? So, but with that in mind, guys, thanks so much for watching this week. You know, it's 9 o'clock right now. We're done. I'm gonna take this a bit further. I'll kind of show my progress next week, just like usual, and then we'll kind of start painting that up. So, yeah, if there's any questions on any of this, join the Discord and hit me up, or just hit me up in general for any one of my students that I've said that before. So, all right, guys.